guys, it's nice to have you back. So today I'm going to give 10 ideas that we as individuals can do to help stop climate change a little bit. I know that we can't completely make climate change 0% chance of happening, not even just a little bit, but it's still going to happen, and I feel like it's part of our lives. But the way that it's happening is not good. So just think about it this way. When you cross a baby in a stroller, they're going to have to deal with a lot of natural disasters. Maybe you can go day to day about your life, but our future generations will have more tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfires, and a lot more issues that we're already facing today. So just keep that in mind. And it is going to be challenging to change habits, but it's possible. So here are 10 tips. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first tip is save energy at home. I have my notes here, I'm ready to go, and let's kick it off with a fact. Most of our energy is powered by coal, gas, and oil. And these release CO2 in our air, which affects our ozone, and that leads to climate change. So 5 tips to help save energy at home. Number 1 is to reduce the AC or the heater by 1 degree versus 5 or 10. And if not, open up your window or close your window and wear a sweater depending on the weather. And then the second tip, use LED light bulbs versus incandescent light bulbs because they save more energy. The LED lights save more energy. And also use more energy efficient appliances like smart appliances because our older ones use more energy. So our dishwasher, our washing machine, our fridge, all of those is good to upgrade after some time. And then the third thing is to wash your clothes with cold water versus hot water because it takes energy to get the water hot. Or don't use a dryer. Put your clothes on a clothing line outside to dry by the sun. Two tips if you do this is to get a portable clothing line so that you can move it into the shade and the sun doesn't damage your clothes as much. And the second tip is turn your clothes inside out so that it doesn't damage it as much. But just so you know, a heater, like a clothing dryer, also damages your clothes. So taking it outside is less damaging and more environmentally friendly. And then the next tip would be to turn off the water when you're not using it. So if you're washing dishes or you're washing your car or gardening, make sure you turn the water off when you're not using it. And the last and fifth tip for this section that I will be giving is when you're waiting for your shower water to get hot, make sure you put a bucket to collect the water that is cold so you can use that as mop water for your garden or anything you feel comfortable with using it. So let's go to tip 2. Okay, so tip number 2 is to eat more vegetables. Really quick, don't mind my heavenly angelic shirt. The sun decided to come out and I'm just going to look like bright ray of happiness. I don't know. Anyway, so eat more vegetables. The reason why we should do this, more times during the week is because vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and eating less dairy and meat creates a lower environmental impact. And the reason for this is because vegetables create less greenhouse gas emission and use less water, land, and energy. But this isn't always true because sometimes our vegetables, whole grains, all of that comes from really far away, so we have to transport it, and that releases more CO2, and it pretty much cancels out how much energy it takes to create meat. So if you can, sometimes during the week, maybe have some vegetable meals. Look into vegetable meals versus a lot of meat. And me, as a carnivorous, I feel like I have to have meat every day, all the time. So this is a good tip, and I need to look into yummy recipes that don't use meat, and are just as tasty, and I will gladly make a video on that if you guys want to see it, because I want to learn more about it and I would love to share more about it. So let's move on to tip 3. Tip number 3 is to consider your travel, and if you can, take fewer flights, walk places, bike, take a train, or just meet virtually. Possibly cancel a long distance trip as well. I have met virtually a few times now, or well, more often than before since COVID had happened. So just take that into consideration. If you can go on a walk versus taking your car to the park, consider that if it's not too hot. And if it is, just prepare for that. Wear sunglasses, a hat, make sure you carry your water bottle and anything you'll need. So let's go to number 4. So number 4 is to throw away less food. And this is because when you throw away food, that equals waste of energy and resources that went into producing, growing, packaging, transporting all that food. And also, when food starts to rot, it creates methane, and that's a powerful greenhouse gas. So if you can use all the food that you buy, try to think of creative ways you can when things start to go bad. For example, a tip: when your bananas start to go bad, you can cut them up and put them in the freezer and use that as a smoothie later on, because when they start to get brown, it is sweeter from my experience, and they taste so good in smoothies versus when they were like a little more in the yellow green side. That's just one tip for bananas that are going bad. And if you can, compost all your food that is going bad, because that ends up going back to farmer soil. So the best way that I would compost or recommend you to compost is by getting one of those composting buckets. I keep that on my counter, so when I'm cutting, I put in the scraps, or if the eggshells, after I crack an egg, I clean them and put them in there. Those are just a few examples of what I put in my compost bin, but that's how I recommend composting. You can also get compostable bags to put it in, because sometimes it starts to leak and it starts to smell weird, but there are it's like an aroma filter that is on top of the compost bucket. I'll make sure to put in the link where I got mine, but that helps the aroma from coming out. But when you open it and you throw it away, it leaks and everything, but it's a lot better than it going to landfills where it creates methane and it's just a bigger mess. So it's better to compost. Let's go to tip 5. Number 5 is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So everything we buy, electronics, clothing, any other items, all create carbon emission at every point of production. So it's a lot better if we buy fewer items, buy secondhand, reuse, recycle, repair what we can. Because if we all did that, imagine how much less waste there would be in our environment. And I would recommend, when you recycle, to look up online what numbers at the bottom are recyclable. In my local area, number 6 is the only one that isn't, and I've realized that that's just styrofoam. So you can look online, get a paper in the mail with the utility bill. Usually comes and tells you what is recyclable, what isn't. All you have to do is rinse the container, and usually the bottle caps aren't recyclable because they're so tiny and the machine can't recycle that. So just consider these things and it will really make a difference. So let's go to number 6. Number 6 and 7. So I wanted to include both of these tips together because when I was looking into preventing climate change, they came up, but I don't have much to add because I don't know a lot about these two topics. So the first one is getting solar panels, and the second is an electric vehicle. So both of them may have pros and cons, and I personally don't have solar panels or own an electric vehicle, so I feel like I can't add much value here, but they were points that I wanted to add and have you guys consider. So let's move on to number 8. Number 8, buy locally or from companies that are cutting down their greenhouse gas emission and also their waste. Another thing is to buy seasonal foods. So I will add a link in the description where you can look up foods that are being grown locally. That way they're not being transported from really far away, and that reduces a lot more CO2. And at the same time, you're helping locals that are creating less waste and being a little bit more eco-friendly. Let's move on to 9. Number 9 is to speak up. If we don't speak up, we won't take action. We'll keep ignoring it. We won't bring awareness to it. Some people that don't know about it will never really learn about it, educate ourselves, talk about it, create action. That way we can start implementing rules and making the government start making more solutions. If we start demanding from companies to have more eco-friendly products, they will. But if we don't put effort, nothing's going to change. So just like I'm making this video, I'm helping educate myself and the viewers on how we can reduce climate change, and I hope that this video really helps not only me but many other people out there, so we don't just keep ignoring it. Last 10. So number 10 is an app that I came across when I was doing research. It pretty much helps people start educating themselves on how we can be more eco-friendly, what sustainability is, and I would recommend downloading this app so you can start taking action. And thank you so much for joining me today. I know that this was a lot of information. It was a lot of information for me to research and you to all take in, but I hope that this helps you start thinking about how climate change is a problem and how our future generations will be affected. Keep thinking about that baby when you cross down the street. They're going to deal with so much, and it's just crazy to think about how scary our future is, and if we don't do something about it and we don't talk about it, nothing will happen. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for joining me. Till next time.